Hello, hello. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, your home of the greatest hacks, snacks, and fun facts, and of course, theme park clothing. Tonight's going to be a good one with Kate, the Disney Cicerone, in our program Distory. We're going to do Haunted Mansion history tonight. So we're going to wait for her to come in here, and we are going to cover off all of the Haunted Mansion facts that we can. So, hey RC, hey Stacy, what is up, Matthew? We figured out that there's going to be a lot of Haunted Mansion history to go over. So there's no way we're going to be able to do it all in one night. So we're going to do this in a couple of parts. Yes, this is our never made or never put into production shirt because we weren't selling the other wovens we had made. So rather than just add more products, I figured we should probably market and advertise a little bit more. So, but we ended up putting them on the website tonight, not in woven form, but in swimsuit form and in t-shirt form and soon to be skater dress form and shorts form. So this is a one of one for now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to change. All right. Let me look for co-host. Oh, does she have to be live at the same time? Allow co-host invites. Yes, here we go. What is happening, everybody? Yeah, you love the space shirt Earth. We'll also have a space skirt Earth at some point. I noticed I didn't change the Epcoat on the bottom of it, though, so I got to tweak that, even though they're up for sale right now. But hang on. Fixing my tripod and waiting on Miss Kate. Is Kate in here? Hello, Kate. Oh, I didn't mean to... Sorry, Jackie, you just got an invite too, but... I don't know what I'm doing clearly here. All right, hang on. Invite guest. Let's try that. Oh, it's doing that thing again. Doing that thing you do. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
So this is the weird combined one where we have tiny thing. And I guess I'm thinking we have to both be live if we want to do the other one. Do we want to do combined audiences or do we want to keep us separated?
I'm okay with either one. I don't know. What are people?
I don't. You're gonna let people decide these things. I think we're gonna do it the other way because it's easy for our audience. They can flip if they want to ask questions in either chat. It's really quick. You just click you or click you. So why don't you go live and then we'll do this again. I swear we'll learn this at one point. And you look amazing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Once I go live, what do I do to connect us? Are you gonna do it?
I will do it. Yeah. Once you go live, I'll do it. Yep. No problem.
I'll be back, everybody.
See yous. All right. Let me change this. How do I just get out of multi-guest? Haha. All right. That's gone. And now... So I just have to wait for Kate to go live. All right. I keep refreshing the invite screen. That shirt, yeah. Dude, also, this is a medium? Your kid got into the shirt. Kid got into that medium life with them little Leotas. Not in a wedding dress, by the way, which is kind of confusing that little Leota at the end of the attraction when you just saw Constance Hatchaway, the bride, in the attraction. So, yeah, about that. And who says we're confused? Oh, why do you gotta be like this? TikTok, you're so funky. Here we go. All right. Oh, yo, which one do you have in that awesome
It's Victor Geist, the organist.
Oh, Victor Geist, very nice. Which in our queue, would you call him? No, you wouldn't, because the composer is outside, not Victor Geist, different.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But I got our good friend Ezra Bean,
Nice.
who is the unluckiest hitchhiker you've ever seen, and he's actually a sipper. So if you actually lift up this little guy, you can.
Oh, that's cool. I can't drink this for mine. Well, I've never tried. Maybe I could. I don't know.
Yeah. Though, you know what was crazy when those came out, they had several ones, and the Hitchhiking Ghost was probably the most popular. They had a Constance Hatchaway as well, and they had those fun effects, but they did not sell well originally. So they sat and sat and sat and sat, and they eventually made their way to Cast Connection for like $10. It was very sad because they were really, really cool. It is a cool sipper, Lemuel. Lemuel obviously loves this sipper because he's the one that gave it to me. And look, wait, hang on, let's get. Ooh.
You like my
All
bow?
right.
My bows.
I
I'm doing a
do.
little
I do.
mixed match up
It's
here. This is Nightmare Before Christmas, but then we got the classic.
yes.
So
But but
yeah.
but works perfectly and seamlessly for those folks that know Disneyland's version with the greatest overlay that ever happens to any Disney ride, which is Haunted Mansion Holiday, hands down.
So true.
So nothing wrong with a crossover. All right, so you want me to do a little intro?
Go for it.
Sweet, awesome. Well, welcome again to another episode of Distory with Kate and Kirk, your favorite theme park Disney nerds. Tonight, we are going over the Haunted Mansion, but we realized from last week that we went a little long. We may be a little long-winded. So we're going to chop this up into multiple parts and make it a lot more interactive because it was just Kate and I droning on forever about pirates, which was great, but 2.5 hours great? Not sure. So tonight, what we're going to do is cover up just the beginning part of conceptualizing the ride. Who are the Imagineers involved? What is some of the backstory and storyline? And then we'll take a look at the outside of the mansions that you know and love, particularly Disneyland and Disney World. If we feel like covering off any of the others, we may, but probably let's just stick to there. And maybe at the very end of another episode, we can do ones that are global. But the ones that everyone knows here, I feel like will work well. And then we're going to be Haunted Mansioned out for a couple of weeks here. There's
That's
a lot to cover.
timing.
Yeah,
Perfect time
right.
halfway to Halloween. Like,
Halfway to halfway to Halloween.
boo to you, my friend. Boo to you.
So Kate, the Disney Cicerone, how do we want to start? You want to start talking about some concept stuff? I do. I know you're well equipped with your book in front of you. I also have done a podcast on this, so I have a ton of preloaded pictures and concept art. I'm ready.
Oh, that's great. I have a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some things that you probably haven't heard of either because I started reading a few new books. So we'll learn a few new
Awesome.
things.
So hang on, time out. People do want to know books. So some of the research, a decent amount, which also, by the way, when I was reading this, Jason Searle's a little all over the map. Much like the Haunted Mansion history, the way that he constructs and authors this, really the beauty is not so much the writings, although there are some really good primary sources that Jason uses by talking to the Imagineers, but really it's the concept art and all the imagery that's within this. That's so wonderful. So this is a Haunted Mansion, Imagineering, a Disney classic by Jason Searle. And do you have any of those books that you're using?
Well, it's on my Kindle, so I'm trying to trying to find a title
page. Kindle paper things? You don't use paper things now? You use digital. You kids.
Use both. I love paper books, but I just don't have room in my house for them with all my kids' stuff. So
also true.
You gotta make choices sometimes. That's the way it is. I think I almost got it. Okay, so this is one I've been reading recently, which is actually a fairly new release. So this is called, that's backwards. I'll flip it later, but it's called Boundless Realm, and it's by Fox Nolt, who was a cast member in the Haunted Mansion for a long time, but has also been like a Haunted Mansion nerd for like years. And so he's done like deep study into random things about the Haunted Mansion. And it's like, I definitely recommend it. It's a little bit, I thought it was a little bit weird at first, because he kind of goes into like history of like Haunted Mansions in general first, but then he really does deep dive into a lot of Haunted Mansion things. So if you're interested in Haunted Mansion, obsessed with Haunted Mansion, it's a great read. So
Cool. Yeah, I've never heard of that one before. But you are always my insight into the literary world. I'm more of a an orator and an activist inside the parks itself. But yeah, so let's get right into the Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion. But it's interesting because the Haunted Mansion's backstory is like so crazy convoluted because it just like it was not it's not like we have this idea, we're going to develop this idea and it's going to happen. It like had so many starts and stops and misdirections, and that's why we're devoting so much time today to going over kind of like the history of how it got started, because it's just a little chaotic. And there's a
It's
lot.
well, and if you think about the attraction itself, because everyone here has mainly experienced it for the most part, maybe not deep dived into the history, but the attraction itself seems like a little disjointed in the way that all of it flows. And some parts are scary, some parts are funny. And why is that? And what is actually the storyline between any of these characters? Because you don't really necessarily hear the characters being spoken about. Like, who's even talking to us, and why are they talking to us? And why do we walk through part of it? And why do we ride through part of it? And what is actually happening? So, and I think we got to start at the beginning. Who started all this craziness?
My goodness. Well, there was early concept sketches for it. I don't know if you have these ones, but I'm looking. We're at the same book, right? Page 12. Turn to me.
We
Turn
d
with me to page 12.
yes, I do have page 12. Actually, so do you want me to show the uh that top left one is Harper Goff, right? I have a better version of it than the book.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
The
let me
1951
exhibit A.
1951 concept sketch by Harper Goff, which just shows some of the earliest ideas of, I think it was Main Street, wasn't it? This was like,
Yeah, so Harper Goff was practicing basically creating a main street, and at the end, just kind of as like an aside, put this dilapidated mansion at the end of this main street. But it wasn't, you know, the park's conception with Marvin Davis and even a touch into Ken Anderson, it all kind of flows together a little bit here. But I'll get real close as you're talking. I'll do like one of those old school documentary when they don't actually have video footage, so they have to use a photo.
yeah, well, the whole like idea of this was like they say it's eventually discarded and replaced by other lands within a land, including International Street was going to be there, and Liberty Street, Edison Square, which none of them ended up in the final design. So it was like a lot of just like early concepts of it. And then when they started developing New Orleans, the idea of the New Orleans Square area in Disneyland, they had some very early concepts. This is also when they were thinking about doing pirates. So this will be the other picture on that page, Kirk, of
Yep.
the one you might have noticed. I think we showed at our pirates adventure last week. So they have the big building that you see kind of in the middle upper part. That would be like the Blue Bayou Mart, I believe was what it was called. And so that was where the Pirates of the Caribbean was going to be. And then the Haunted Mansion was going to be to the left. You could see over there.
So that's over in right here.
Mm-hmm. You can see kind of like where the show would have been behind it and like the facade in the front. But that when they put in the Jungle Cruise and they expanded the Jungle Cruise ended up taking that area. So instead they had kind of, when they made New Orleans Square, it was more of a weird L shape. So you can see the chicken plantation house is down there near the river. That's that big building down by the river, which actually is more towards where Pirates is today. And then the New Orleans Square is off to the right. It kind of L's to the right, and then the Haunted Mansion is on the other side of it now. But early off, this was Sam McKim, I think, that did this one.
It was okay. So on below Sam McKim's aerial view, no date on it though. I'm looking to the bottom right, but it's too hard for my older eyes.
Yeah,
I need my readers out.
Like really small. It's like this big, so it's tiny.
Yep.
So, so I think when they were then researching the houses that they did want to put in there, they had then that one up the next page on the upper right. That one is the a concept by Marvis Davis and Sam McKim in 1957. And that was like the early concepts of the haunted house. And then,
And you notice one of the things about this haunted house, Kate, is it in good condition?
I know that none of the early concept sketches were in good condition. They were all very dilapidated. And Walt did not like that because he had gone to Coney Island and seen kind of the rundown conditions of the parks, and everybody's idea of amusement park was like, oh, it's like dirty and run down and like not maintained. And he said, my park will not be like that. So he didn't like that. Did you have
Yeah,
were you
so
that?
Imagineers really like the idea of doing a haunted house. So rather than give up the whole entire project, they elected to say, okay, fine, the outside, let's table that, make it nice on the outside, but let's focus on the inside portions. But we still have a lot to take in from the outside of this attraction. Look at all these pictures, and they're all like nicely labeled. You're gonna love all this.
When they did like, so they got where they got their influences from. Now, I feel like at this point we should talk first. We can do Disneyland, but we should also talk with influences for Disney World because that is a fascinating story too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have so I'm more of a Disney World aficionado, so I can go ham on the Harry Packer house, which still exists. So, but yeah, let's start with Disneyland because that's where this whole thing started.
Yeah, so Disneyland largely was influenced by the Shipley Lydecker house. This was in Baltimore. It's no longer there. I was like, so I'm so funny. I was like, when I was in Baltimore this past week, I was like, we should go find it. I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it does not. Now there was the Evergreen House too in Baltimore, which does still exist, but it doesn't look like this. So therefore it's less intriguing because if you could have this exact structure, and you can see some concept art here where, if you want to talk about copyright infringement, it's not copyright to take a building. And Imagineers certainly took that building because this sketch straight up Ken Anderson and Sam McKim's, which is down here. I mean, they're straight up the Shipley Lydecker house in Baltimore.
Yeah, it's pretty much a carbon copy of it. And I love Sam McKim's sketch there. It's just such a beautiful concept art sketch. And you can see these original sketches, the original ones are right now in Disneyland. If you go to Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln inside the Opera House, you can see they're on display right now as from the archives. You can see these actual sketches. So if you're a big Disney history person, you're headed to Disneyland, make sure you stop in there. A lot of people miss it. They walk by, they're like, that's boring. I'm going to Big Thunder Mountain, and I get it. But this is worth stopping to see, I promise. So, yeah.
Well, Kate, just don't pull a national treasure and try to steal one of these things, which I know you've probably looked at it and been like, can I fit that in my Loungefly or not?
Some of those little sculptures, like
See, that's what I'm talking. How do you not think like that? Like, who would notice?
I would never.
Of course not.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so it's funny because like Johns Hopkins, it's the Evergreen House that you were talking about was given to Johns Hopkins, which it's funny for me because the college I went to is the sister school to Johns Hopkins. So like it's like, oh, I have a connection to something related to the Haunted Mansion.
Wait, I love how we reach like Melanie Ravenswood. I'm like, she kind of looks like Melanie, and I married a Melanie. So like I married one of the Haunted Mansion bride. It's reaching.
I mean, it's there.
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Okay. So that Disneyland, so that's kind of Disneyland's inspiration.
Can I show the Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania Harry Packer house?
Yes. I might even have more than that. So you show that first and then I'll show you what I've got.
So if you're a Disney World fan, well, this is where the dominant look of this, what do they call it? The Hudson River Valley structure is kind of, it's not exactly the spot on copy like we see for Disneyland. But this is actually it was owned by a newspaper baron's son who I think it was a wedding present, perhaps. And they actually still do murder mystery uh, dinners there, but it was turned into an inn. I don't believe you can actually stay there, but they still do murder mysteries here in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. But it's pretty neat. Oh, that's Winchester. I don't want to get to Winchester yet.
Yeah. So, um, I've heard it's interesting that you brought that up because I haven't heard that one in particular. In this newest one, the book that I brought up, that Boundless Realm one, he talks a lot about where it comes from. A lot of people mistake it for a a Dutch Gothic architecture, but he says it's actually a Gothic revival castellated manor. And the place they got it from was actually the place where they got the same. There was another photo that they got for the Disneyland one is in the same book on page or for the Shipley house. They found the Shipley house was in the same book as this picture, which I'll show you now. This engraving. It was basically a book on old manors. And so they found that house and they found this manor in the same book. This was on page 59. And this one
Not
is
not in our combined book. It's in that one too.
no, this
No,
one's in the
no.
Boundless Realms one that I
Oh,
found this.
the Boundless Realms one. So I
Yeah.
noticed the tops of that building are very similar to. So when you were talking about specifically Gothic style architecture, and when we talk about chess pieces, and Mark Davis being a fan, can you zoom in a little bit? Like on the well, that's pretty good. That's pretty. I mean, yeah, those spires exist on ours for sure.
Well, this was supposedly their inspiration for it. When this was an original engraving that was inspired by it goes deeper. This was inspired by a book from 1847 that was called Cottage Residences, and it was supposed to be a book that was I don't just describing all these different kinds of residences, but this one belonged to Joel Rathbone of Albany, and looks like this. And this is supposed to be what that engraving was inspired by.
So
crazy?
that was a so people are talking about this Hudson River Valley Resort. You said this one was New York, right? Did you say Albany? What did I hear? I heard something that was New York-esque,
This
New
one's
York State.
from this was an actual house that was owned by Joel Rathbone in Albany, so that must be New York, right?
You got, yes.
I'm
All
in
right.
Albany, Oregon, so just
Oh,
saying.
hey, it could be just like Springfield. Springfield is everywhere.
Springfield, but we're the original one for The Simpsons.
Oh,
Like
stop. That
Matt
is
Groening actually said it was. We have a plaque and a mural that has it because he lived in Oregon. He's from Oregon. Anyway,
okay.
sidebar for you Simpsons fans out there. But isn't that fascinating? Like
It is totally fascinating. Can you say the name again? I'm just going to try to Google an actual picture of this.
It's Joel Rathbone, and I don't know if you'll be able to find it because I feel like this is so obscure. Like he might have had someone sketch it for him or bring it from a
Joel
book.
Rath. How does he spell the last name?
Rathbone.
The Joel Rathbone Mansion.
And it's from a book by A.J. Downing. Can't read my handwriting. Got problems.
So, no, the Albany Institute has pictures.
Oh, my husband's on my feet. He says hi, Kirk.
Hey, what's happening? How are you, brother? So there's actually a bunch of Albany structures that look like this. Like, check this out real quick.
Okay, so I have so what happened was in the Industrial Revolution, they built a whole bunch of these manors that were in this Gothic revival castellated structure. And there was just because there was a lot of money pouring in. But when the economy crashed, a whole bunch of them like stopped building them like mid project. And so the whole like landscape, the countryside was dotted with these manors that look like this, but they were completely empty. So if you were a kid growing up in that time period, odds are you had a castellated manor that was like unfinished and empty somewhere in your neighborhood that you had stories about that it was haunted. And that's why they chose that design.
Look at this one in terms of even coloration. This is the Kenwood property in Albany. This like gives me a reason to actually go to Albany. I've been to Albany when you're driving up to Montreal, Canada, and this definitely could be look at the colors. I mean, it's identical. That red brickwork. This is the actual Haunted Mansion, and here is that Kenwood property. This was the Kenwood Academy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild. Very, very cool.
originally going to make it a federal style building. So they have like this is an actual this was what they were going to originally do for Liberty Square. And you could see that it has like two sides that are symmetrical for the two stretching rooms. But it was
Yeah.
originally going to be a federal style building and then they changed it later on in the project.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. I didn't know that. See, this is the more you know.
So
And this is why Kate gets top billing because she brings all the things.
I just read a lot. And I just take it all in and then synthesize it. So that's it. But you mentioned also the Winchester Mystery House. That might be where we're headed next.
Yeah, I think we should because remember, now we have a really, really nice exterior that's not dilapidated because Walt does not want trash inside of his park. He wants it to be really pretty. But the inside can be kooky and crazy. So a lot of inspiration came from the Winchester mansion. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So let me pull up the outside exterior of this bad boy. You can see the outside of this. And Winchester, you might be like, hey, that's kind of familiar. Well, it is the wife of um, Winchester, you know, the gun manufacturer. Her husband, her late husband, had created the gun that won the West, which is a really polite way or nicer way of saying that it committed horrible atrocities. But there's a significance for why this house is so opulent. This was in California. I believe it's still a walking tour museum today. Have you ever done this tour before?
I haven't done it, but I've watched a lot of documentaries about it, and it's weird. It's a crazy place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I imagine that. So the reason why this house is so big and so kooky, and if we get inside, is the woman who constructed this listened to basically like a medium, like a psychic medium, who said if she continued to construct the home, then she could potentially live forever, and spirits would not come and capture her into the underworld because she was very, very terrified of the fact that um, all of their wealth came from basically a weapon and all the things that happened with that gun in particular. So, yeah. And the
Wow.
Winchester rifle, if you never realized, it's a repeating rifle, which means that you could shoot more rounds quicker, and that was a huge piece of technological advancement, but of course had some dramatic significance um, in the West.
Yeah. And the house itself has crazy things like stairs that go to nowhere and, closets that open up to like, or doors open up to brick walls and doors that lead out to like you fall out the third story. Like none of it makes any sense. Or hallways that get really narrow. It's like it's very
Right, and the purpose of that was that the spirits would get lost. They would go up these stairs and go like, "Yo, where am I going?" And then that. But it's interesting because you see that that's what they say. That's what 999 of them are like, "Yo, I swear this went somewhere."
like I guess
You
I'll
can
just
actually
stay
still
here.
see them wandering in inside our haunted mansion, just stepping like, "Dude, seriously, where do I go? Where do I even go in here?"
Facts. Straight facts.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, excuse me a moment.
Yeah,
Oh
she
my
did.
gosh.
Yeah, that is true, Chrissy. The building never stopped. It always was in constant construction forever until she passed away. So, but the construction was like 37 years, just continuous construction on this mansion. Whether it was interior rooms, there was doors to nowhere, secret passageways. It was wild, very, very wild.
I wanted this kind of like talking about this building section, guys, we can answer questions. So if you guys have questions, we're going to
Yes.
pause after the section. So feel free to shoot us questions. We just we'll take a little pause in between the sections and answer them for you. So don't be shy to ask
Yeah,
questions.
we recognize that it was a lot of lecture, which is fine, but we want this to be a little bit more of an interactive show. So that is definitely the game plan as we get better and better doing Distory together.
Now, I have something about the Florida one that I feel like this is a discussion more than like a straight facts, because in the book that I was reading, they said, okay, that it's a lot of people say it's the New York Hudson Valley, right? It's the like Hudson Valley Manor by the river. But in it's debated because it seems like people took the manor by the river, meaning manor by the rivers of America, and then people added on all those the idea that it was the Hudson River over time when they wrote copy. And it was actually the slate wall, I think it's slate, the big wall that you guys have in Florida there, that is made of slate. The Imagineers in the project, when they were building it, they called it the sea wall. And then on top of the landing for the Liberty Bell, there is, I think, a ship. At least there's like a couple nautical things on the weather vane up there. And then of course you have the Columbia Harbor House, which is a Cape Cod style house, which would be by the sea. And it would be it was named after, of course, the Columbia, which was the ship you guys didn't get because they a lot of reasons. You guys didn't get you were going to get a Columbia sailing ship like Disneyland, but you didn't because you needed something with more capacity and more coverage. So you ended up getting a second stern wheeler riverboat. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? So what I'm saying is this: it's like this triangle of sea things is what it's supposed to be, but everybody assumes it's the Hudson River Valley. But it seems like the Imagineers designed it to be an oceanside manor. And I wanted to know your thoughts. What do you think?
So the reason why I wouldn't agree necessarily if we didn't have a paddle boat, I think I could get into that more, right? So like if we had a sailing ship, a one that was meant to be on salt water versus like almost zero paddle boats ever or on anything besides freshwater, right? Just because
Yeah.
could you
It's like
imagine them on wakes and waves? Like they would just, deteriorate instantly. But now you mentioned my weather vane ears perked up. Are you talking about the one that's because there is one above the station for the Liberty Bell, and that is a sailing ship. So it's like a
yeah.
schooner on the top of that one, and then on top of our manor is a bat. And I was thinking, did you say any? There's nothing on the seawall that's nautical as well. It's just that wall that's there, correct?
No, there's nothing on it that's nautical, but the Imagineers, like in all of their blueprints, they called it the seawall. It wasn't like the river wall or
Yeah,
something. It
like
was
what you would think they would call it a river wall.
Mhm.
It's you know what? The only thing that would make sense, is this in? I feel like it's in either New Hampshire or in Massachusetts. There is like a sea town that has these ridiculous huge mansions, and it's still in New England, and they're gorgeous. You can go through them. It's not the Peabody. I'm blanking on it, but we did the cheap version, which is you walk on the outside of them, and they're all gorgeous. Like there's one that's very Asian inspired with a tea house, and I can't remember the area of this, but a lot of the buildings look very similar, and I could see some inspiration, although that's never been Newport. It could be Newport, yes. I think,
Newport.
and is that Rhode Island, right? Newport, Rhode Island.
I don't know. We have a Newport, Oregon. I'm like,
Dude, not
what's
everything is about
Newport?
Oregon.
Newport, Oregon's really nice though. It's a cute little beach town.
So just check this out. Just check this out for real quick, because I think you'll find this really interesting, and you might go, "Holy cow, we might be onto something." Like this
Okay.
is living history, people. This is us. Welcome to the Da Vinci Code. So this is one of the Newport mansions,
Interesting.
right? And
Mm,
these all sit. Apparently, Jay Leno owns this one. Tell me that's
that's
not a
interesting.
seawall if
Yeah.
you've ever seen it with some pretty interesting spires and similar brick. But yeah, I mean they've got where's that? Can you pull up that picture you have?
Oh, the federal one?
The federal one.
Let me see.
Hmm.
Kids are yelling at each other, so. You guys might hear that too. So sorry about that. Yeah, the federal one. Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh, did we just come up with something? This
Ooh,
is
that's cool.
revisionist history here.
Wow.
But no,
That's
I mean it's
cool.
really cool. Like look in the side of this is one of the Newport mansions on the inside. Like they're crazy. They're really, really cool.
Wow.
Super,
What
super
is that one
opulent,
called?
tons of money.
I want to
I
write it
mean
down.
there's 14 of these mansions. Which is the one that you want to look up?
Where's the one that you just showed me? What is that?
This one, this
Yeah.
federally one.
Yeah.
Uh 14 here we go. Here's our clickbait title. 14 mansions in Newport, Rhode Island you have to see to believe.
Ooh.
All right, let's see if it of course it doesn't have. All right, I've seen the break. It's the Breakers. Yep. It's the Breakers is this one.
Interesting. I got to do more research.
This mansion features 70 rooms, a 45-foot great hall, gold and platinum covered walls, intricate panels with mythological beings, and sits on a 13-acre estate overlooking the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow, that's wild.
Right?
See? So
I
then
mean,
maybe their original concept was with the federal building, with the seawall, but the seawall stayed, but um but when they changed it to that Gothic revival castellated one that was after Albany, then that's where we get the Hudson River one. Maybe that's what happened.
yeah, I can see a combination of both of these styles. And I guess this is a good time as ever to point out the fact that everything with the Haunted Mansion is disjointed. It really is. And I would love to say that it's this beautiful, I mean, it is beautiful, but it's beautiful chaos in a lot of ways because we are getting not a melting pot, we're getting more of a cultural stew because it is wide, diverse images, looks, feels, textures, storylines, all they're together and combined, but they're not exactly congruent and cohesive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I have so much more about the building itself, but do we want to pause and take
I say we take a pause right here. So
okay.
if you have any questions about the outside of the Haunted Mansion, and we haven't even gotten into the queue, but if you have queue questions, that's fine. You can queue them up if you want, and we'll answer those as well. So we should be we're going to be not combined on the chat here, Kate. So we'll just have to, as you get questions, as I get questions, powers combined. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't know if I can pull up QAs. I can. Yep, I can.
There's a Newport, Tennessee. Newport. See, they're everywhere. Yep. I see that.
Fun fact, the hurry back lady was Dee Dee from Dexter. You
The same
mean
actress? The
the
same twin?
actress? I feel like I have to Google that.
Yeah. I don't
She
know about
seems
that.
too young. She seems way too young.
Because
I
that's
don't
gonna
agree with that
time.
because I think it's I don't think so. I think it's Leota Toombs does Little Leota where Madame Leota is voiced completely different. But I could be wrong. But I remember somebody going like,
Yeah.
"That's my mother's voice." It's her face in another scene, and or maybe it was her grandmother's voice in the other scene. But that's for another part, for another time.
Another time.
Okay, here we go. I'm getting questions. I'm getting
Okay.
questions. We ready?
Yes.
Does any of the ride take place in the mansion? Wait, what? Does any of the ride take place in the mansion? Oh, you
Kind of.
mean like the building of the mansion? Like, does anything actually physically happen in the man side, or does it all take place in a show building? Sorry, the way I read that, I was like, you're goofing on me, dude. That's like Michael just like, does any of it take place in the Haunted Mansion? I'm like, bro, the whole thing's in the Haunted Mansion, but
I know
I get what
this.
you mean in the actual facade. Go for it, Kate.
So, what takes place in the mansion itself is that the foyer like room that you walk into, and then the stretching room, and that's pretty much it. Especially in both Disneyland and Disney World, because Disneyland, once you go in the stretching room, you go down, you go, and then you walk in a hallway that goes underneath the railroad tracks, and then you're in a whole nother show building that's outside the berm, so it's on the outside of that raised area where the railroad tracks goes. And then in Disney World, I've got, because you can see all my notes, but whoa, sorry. You can see how it's symmetrical that way. Each side is a stretching room, and that's literally, you enter in this part that's underneath here. When you enter in the side, you enter in this part, and that's where the original room is. And then you go to the stretching rooms.
If you look at height wise, it probably the stretching room's ceiling is probably somewhere around the top of that doorway, or just slightly to the arch or whatever you call that on top. And then you can see how much space above it, because you can kind of gauge that. Because for ours, it actually stretches up, where yours you actually go down. But that's
Yeah.
for another day. But yeah, there it is. There it is. Stretching rooms, and that
Well,
little section with the portrait of, well, it's from Dorian Gray, but does he have a name?
the
The
age,
skeleton,
the
the
one
aging
that's
man.
aging man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually has a real name. I think they've given him nicknames, but I could be wrong about that.
I know that you know what, he's not. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's leave it at that. Yes. Okay.
We have so much more to talk about.
There's another one in Kings Park, New York. I'm guessing that's another mansion style one. Where did they get ideas for the Haunted Mansion Disney Paris? So that's a whole nother can of worms. I'll just loosen the top of that jar. Uh,
Oh no.
the the
Keep it
which
contained.
what's which I'm not gonna. We'll seal it up real quick. We're not fully opening Pandora's box. We're just, hey, can you help me with that jar lid? We're just gonna crack it. Uh, what's so unique about that one is they wanted to do something completely different rather than a spot on spot copy of the interiors. So we go to Frontierland for that. And that is physically where the Haunted Mansion is located in Disneyland Paris. But we're going to leave that for another day, Wolfie, because I feel that Mystic Manor and Disneyland Paris need a part all to themselves, because they're just such unique, different ride system sequences, storyline that are not congruent at all. Is the mansions haunted? You should us. I'm guessing you're asking, are the mansions that I was showing you haunted or not? Like the physical, real mansions. Most of these, because they're unique and big and large, and usually it's somebody wealthy who maybe not in the public eye, there's always going to be stories of a place being haunted. Sometimes people die in these homes as well, which then furthers the conversation of things being haunted. Or it could also be people are maintaining and taking care of old electrical equipment, flickering lights, all the types of things that you would find. Are they haunted or not? I don't know the history of every single one, but I'm sure something is going on somewhere in most of them.
Probably. I mean, there was always rumors that all, especially those ones that were the abandoned Gothic ones, though those were always rumored to be haunted. But you have to also think about the Victorian eras when spiritualism came to be, and that's
Mm-hmm.
actually a story that I'm going to save for the seance room, because I have all kinds of history about that. But just know,
This is why we're gonna have multiple parts of this bad boy, because there's so much going on. I like this question. This is just an opinion question. What do you think? Do you think Walt would like Disneyland or Walt Disney World's Haunted Mansion better? I like that question.
ooh, that's a hard one.
I don't think it's a hard one at all. I think he would like Disneyland's because he never got a chance to see it completely completed. And also, I think he would like it because he would see that exterior. He would know and be familiarized with that park more. And he would have known a lot of the imagery and the effects that had taken place or that were going to be built. And I think he would just be really excited about seeing Doom buggies in his home park, because he would have no idea about any of that ride system. And I know it's similar, but there's no place like home. And I think Walt would call Disneyland home. In fact, Walt's apartment was there. So
Well, and he loved New Orleans. That's why we have New Orleans Square. That was like he loved hanging out in New Orleans. So I think I agree with you there, that having that manner, that style house in New Orleans with all the, I think, yeah, and seeing it completed makes me sad that he never really did. And he didn't with Pirates either. He never saw it fully completed, you know. So yes, I agree with you.
We have another question. Is there a specific reason why all of the Haunted Mansion exteriors look so different from another? And I'll just give the obvious answer. They are in different lands, right? So that's just the obvious answer is to stay in, much like it's one of the drawbacks of Disneyland is that you still have characters having to go cross over through other lands out of character, right? So they didn't have the benefit of the utilidors, which is the underground tunnel system of Walt Disney World, which then can take a guest out of the storyline. Nothing would take a guest out of the storyline like placing a rocket in the middle of Liberty Square. Do you know what I mean? So like there's things that need to be continuity storyline arcs, and that's why I feel like New Orleans we get, even though it's based off of a Baltimore mansion, that mansion was based off of more Southern style, what they would call plantation. And in fact, in that area, this is pre lots of political correctness. There was a fried chicken plantation mansion, I believe is what they called it. It was like a restaurant, quick
Uh,
service.
Chicken house, yeah.
The chicken house.
Chicken plantation house.
Chicken plantation house, right? There's plantation in the house. So, uh, yeah, it's they're trying to stay within the thematics, right? And if you look at Liberty Square, it's if you look in Liberty Square, there are actually I love this. This is such a cool like fun fact is talks about the 13 colonies, and there's actually some sons of flyers that they tack on in front of and say meet the Sons of Liberty to overthrow the British underneath the Liberty Tree, which has those 13 lanterns for the original 13 colonies. So, yeah, it would make sense that it would be a New England style home rather than something in the South. And then Frontierland for Disneyland Paris. And then I don't know where Mystic Manors is located in what land and how that fits, but I'm sure it does. But that's the reason.
Sure. But I do know the one that's in Florida, so that whole area, it's part of that style also because it's so close to Fantasyland, so it bridges that gap because it has a more of a castle feel to it. So that's part of the reason of that design as well. But that whole Liberty Square area around into Frontierland not only moves through time, but it also moves east to west. So this why that would be in New York. We're starting in New York, we're starting the Eastern Seaboard, and then we're working our way through Pennsylvania, we're working our way through Mississippi, and then we're going further west. So that surround the rivers of America is not only through time, but it's also moving west. And that's partially why it's that design, because it had to be start all the way up. Oh, I just hit my figment. Sorry, Piggy.
Clearly not a part of your imagination.
I had to hang him up. That's the only place I had room for him.
Okay,
Anyway.
The Mystic Manor is in Hong Kong Disneyland in the Mystic Point. So wouldn't that make sense for the Mystic Manor to be a part of Mystic Point?
Yes, I remember that now. I haven't been there, so it's harder for me to I've read about it a lot, but I haven't. So
It's set in a dense, uncharted rainforest surrounded by mysterious forces and supernatural events.
theirs is really cool. I don't know if you've seen a video through it. It's
I
really
have. It was actually one of the reasons why I stopped watching POVs because it was so cool and so incredible. And I haven't watched it in probably over 2 decades, but it's one of those things where I just was so excited to eventually get to go on that attraction. I have not been yet, but I'm like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have ever looked at this because it would be magic. It's the
yeah.
best way to put it. That's why I always try to not look at things like Cosmic Rewinds, blinders on, Halcyon, blinders on.
I'm like scroll.
Yeah, I just don't. I have zero interest in learning about it until I experience it with fresh eyes because that when you come off of like Rise of the Resistance, I had no idea what was going on, and that was purposeful because it would have dampened some of the magic for me. Personal preference, but I feel like you feel the same way. Robbie has a question. Is the facade of the mansion, does it have real brick or is it fake? Which is a great question, which I have some great construction pictures here.
I'm pretty sure it's not real, but do you know?
Real or no real? Here, ready? Let's do a poll. Let's get interactive here. If you think that it's hang on, remove, start a poll. If you think that it has real brick, and now I'm not showing you the actual facade just yet, but if you think the Haunted Mansion has real brick, give us a smile. If you think that it is fake brick, if it's made of fricks, then
I
give
wish I
it
could
a sad face.
tell me what they say. I have to show
So,
my.
and
I'm
here's kind
worried about
of
my
if you
figmented hurt. He's okay.
if you he's well, that's a big deal. You know, I'm actually frankly bummed that I didn't have you grab one for me when you were there because
Oh,
I was like they've got hundreds of thousands over there. I'll just get it the next day, but it just wasn't meant to be. Figment and I were not meant to be.
they were gone by the time I got there, like 8 o'clock. They had like a few on the tables, and I almost didn't get one. So
Which is crazy, absolutely
yeah,
crazy. So it's fun just seeing how built up this structure was, looking at all the dirt, and in fact, probably this portion down here is a retaining wall, but then also probably extends out to the rivers of America on that one side to make your little seawall. It looks like,
I have
according to the
wait
poll,
before
what?
you say that. I will say I have like a ton of information on why it isn't in this location and all about the stretching room and the elevators and a whole bunch of stuff, but that's gonna have to be for another day. But I know like why it's built like this, so we will talk about it another time because it's a lot. So anyway, tell us that.
Do you give us a 5 second? Come on, you can't just tease everybody like that. You got to give
Um,
just a little bit of information of why it's maybe why does it look like this, Kate?
well, they did finish it like almost a year before the rest of the park. So it sat empty, completely finished, locked up for almost a year. But there's some people that said that they might have had it in a different section of the park, maybe closer to Jungle Cruise and stuff. I've heard rumors of that. But there's also they were originally planning to have elevators in it. That was part of the plans that kind of got changed last minute. And the elevators ended up in other places in the parks. So when we get to the stretching room, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's part of the reason why it is kind of built up the way it was, built up that way was because they were going to put elevators in it and they never did. So that's that.
Now, if you look at this, I'm gonna go with partial. I'd say it's half and half. It looks more similar to the way that they did the castle, you know. So it does have texture, and you can see that it is a 3D effect. It's not like just somebody put, a painted brick. You know, it this
Yeah.
actually does look like it has some texture, especially if you look down here. That has a lot of texture, and the bricks are not all the same size. It's hard to see on here, but I can see it better with the resolution I have. That the bricks are all not 100% uniform. So I'm gonna go with a little bit of both. Whoop, I'm all over the
Well,
place now. What happened?
Fred Yorger worked on this project. He worked on the Haunted Mansion, so I'm sure that he was in charge of the brickwork, of the rock work to make it look real and authentic. So he's, of course, for those of you who don't know, Fred Yorger also did Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. He was known as the person who did all the rock work in Disney, and he even passed on that trade of how to make authentically realistic looking rocks to other Imagineers who came up behind him. So you have him to thank for all of the bricks and rock work that is throughout the parks, including in the Polynesian. He also did all the rock work there.
Well, I'll be back at MK on Monday in the morning, and I'm sure I will pass by this, and I will. This definitely, you can tell there's definitely little breaks in between, but I'll get up and close and try to see if there's more texture to this. I've never really kind of paid attention to the brick, but that's an interesting question. We got another one on here, and it is: does Disneyland have a graveyard outside? Like, I'm guessing this could actually be a two-part.
Yeah,
Graveyard, similar to our front part of our queue, and then even Pet Cemetery exit queue. That's
yeah.
just a quick snap.
Um, well, I mean, we can talk about the queue. That's a great segue into the queue if we
Well,
want to.
let's not. I honestly think we have to leave the queue for next week. Like, I
Okay.
know this is so crazy, but there's so much and what's even wilder, we haven't even gotten through all the storylines yet. Like we haven't even talked about Captain Gore and
Yeah.
Priscilla.
No, I mean
Like,
we're gonna have to do the storylines might be its own thing because it's
well,
just so
that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
there's like we looked on the outside, we haven't even talked about how they're gonna fill the inside yet. You know?
Jackie has said so. MK was changed last minute. Yeah, the elevator that they were going to have Otis elevators in there, just like Disneyland, but they were changed. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but I think I'm going to save that for when we talk about the stretching room because it's kind of an involved story. So I won't go into that. But I do have something else for the outside of the building if we have a few minutes
Well,
here.
just real quick with the Disneyland, do you have a graveyard?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes, we had used to have a bigger one, but we lost it in I think 1970 or 71. They had to remodel it to have an extended queue in the back part. So we do have a graveyard, but it's like they're kind of like there's the queue and then they're up on the hill. So they're
I'm
there.
laughing at Rhonda who wrote, "Here's our future. Welcome to Haunted Mansion History, hour number 97. If you're lucky, we'll do 999 segments of the Haunted Mansion and just never stop. And we'll just rename this to the famished, or the foolish mortal, uh, hour. It'll just be that forever."
Yeah, if you love Haunted Mansion, stick around for a couple of weeks because we'll be here for a while.
Hey, we're halfway to Halloween. We might as well just do this until Halloween.
I love Haunted Mansion. I could talk about it forever. So
A real quick other snap one. If there's one thing, and I know this is impossible, but do the impossible, Kate. What's the one thing you want to see in the new Haunted Mansion movie, which we just found out yesterday is being released? So there will be a new Haunted Mansion movie. I'm very excited for it because they did such an amazing job with the Muppets Haunted Mansion, uh, that I think that they're gonna do a much darker, sinister rather than goofy version like they did for the Eddie Murphy version. And if there's any hope, they will keep it very close to the way the attraction looks and feels. Like the Pirates did a really nice job with taking elements but making it realistic, where it was more, I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to downplay the Eddie. At least it's something. At least we had a movie.
they have to have the Hatbox Ghost. Have to. I think
Mm.
it like that is something that they that has not really been in many other things, and I feel like it is so critical to the Haunted Mansion story. I know they don't have it in Disney World, but they do have elements of it because of the
Uh-oh. We lost Kate. Oh no. What happened? Where'd Kate go? I wonder if you can.
every week.
I don't know what happened. That
Um,
was really weird. We went
I
away.
know. What did so where was I? So the haunted. I would love to see the ballroom characters have like
Mm.
more presence in the movie, especially like the one who's like passed out under the table. Like, what's his story? Like, we've got Julius Caesar and Pickwick and all the things we'll talk about later. But
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, and you get elements of those even in the outside. For me, some characters that I just because they're so iconic, and I I just generally feel that most guests would be more enriched in their enjoyment of the Haunted Mansion is if we got more Hitchhiking Ghost info. Because I think if they had some more canon story that guests had, all you know is like they're coming with you, right? That's
yeah,
basically all you get in the attraction. But yet they're so paramount in intellectual property, in merchandise sales, that I think guests would really appreciate them more and they could sell even more merch
yeah,
by explaining the hitchhiking ghosts a little bit more to guests on site. I think they would appreciate that.
I agree with that. How about maybe like Hitchhiking Ghosts will be for like the Disney World people who don't know the Hatbox Ghost, and Disneyland gets Hatbox Ghost. Like, if we get both of those, that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, plus all the regular characters. We got to have, Madame Leota, and we have to have all the like regular ones too. Otherwise, we'll just be disappointed. So we have to have all the
Uh,
cast.
I don't think our haunted mansion is haunted. Do you have any stories about your haunted mansion being haunted?
There's a lot of stories about that. I have heard a few from Disney World too, just of things moving and being in weird locations and stuff. But sometimes I think it's cast members just moving stuff around. There's a lot of people that spread ashes on the ride. I don't recommend that. Don't do that. But because they just get vacuumed up and stuff, and it's gross. So don't do that. But there are people that like to spread people's ashes because that's their final request. And
That's very, very common. Actually, spread somewhere in the parks. That actually happens very, very frequently, and they actually have a code for it. I can't remember what it is, but I'll do the research on that one once we get into. You'll end up in a vacuum. Yes, Ellie. That's a pretty sucky way to go. But the Chrissy asked, you need this in podcast form. So at the end, I had the ability, and this is what I need to do still with last week's episode, is I will download these, I will put them on YouTube, and you can just listen to them on YouTube. But I think the visuals are nice too. But I could probably rip just the audio and somehow do that on a podcast form as well. So yeah.
I did have somebody asking a Distory suggestion. It was Pirates backstory. We actually did that last week. So you still have, hopefully you have that somewhere because I don't have it.
I do. So the way this always works, and this is just for reference point for you, is TikTok will leave your lives available under the live sender under replays, and you can download them. And here's the pro tip. Not download them on your phone. They take forever. Do them on the desktop. So if you're on your browser, you can download them. They'll download super quick. Like I downloaded an 8-hour live today. It took 20 minutes because it was 4 gigs, which that's because of TikTok, not because of my internet. And if I tried to do it on my cell phone, it would have taken at least 2 hours, which is like ridiculous. So
I don't even have the option of downloading last week's because it was like on your live and I joined you. So I don't have it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether or not, so we've run into that too with Tiki Room Radio. And what I can do is I can send you the download link, which is what I've been doing with Mark, and Mark has been posting them as auditory podcasts. So yeah, we can do all these things. So you can have it and everybody can have it, and you can do whatever you want with it.
We'll connect more about that. Do we have any more time left? We're running close to, but I have one last thing I could share.
Yeah, why don't you share one last thing, and then yes, we're gonna put all this stuff onto YouTube, and it'll live there for now, and then in auditory form. Because somebody asked another question about YouTube again. So yeah, Kate, why don't you round this off so that way we're close to a tight hour. I like it. This is better than last week's. But Kate, what do you got?
Okay, so this was something I found out recently. I did not know this existed because it hasn't existed at Disneyland in a very long time. It has not worked. It's an effect that is in the building, in the windows on the outside of both Florida and California. And it is a traveling light that moves from window to window slowly, window to window, like a ghost is traveling throughout the building. Now, so I have a picture of the mechanism that works for it. So this is what sits in the windows of outside of both haunted mansions, and it's basically like this. Sorry, I can't hold it and point at the same time. So this part turns, it rotates slowly, and when it rotates, it creates that light that points through the window. And it's triggered by the stretching room. So when every 7 minutes, when the stretching room operates, the lights will start a new cycle. So in Disneyland, they don't work anymore, and they haven't for a while. But in Disney World, supposedly, most of them still work. So this is the order that they travel in. I know the numbers are backwards. Sorry, guys.
Is this part of Boundless?
Yes. Like you have to read the book.
Oh, gosh, I need this book desperately. Is it still in print or is it just in digital form?
I don't know if it's in print. I just got it in digital. I just really wanted to read it.
This is so up my geekdom. Like,
isn't it cool?
Hey guys, let's talk about the sequencing of the movie, because I've always noticed those lights before, particularly the ones here. I'm going to flip this around so that you guys can see it. You just downloaded it, Rhonda. Yeah, I don't blame you. And because you can see these lights right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lights that are on that you see glowing in the windows are just that mechanism. Nope, that's the wrong way. That's the mechanism pointing towards the back, like it is right here. So that's it is the mechanism you're seeing when those windows are lit up. You're seeing that light from that mechanism. And then if you look down at the bottom of the windows really closely, you'll see a little like black object. And that is that mechanism that is going to turn when the stretching room triggers it. And like I said, it moves from You get back to that other one. It
Thank
moves
you,
in that,
Jackie.
and it starts in the back. It starts on one side and then it moves to the conservatory. And in the conservatory, you can actually see that there's dead plants inside the conservatory when the light moves through it. But
Oh
it's
my
very
gosh.
subtle.
I am so in love with all of this, and I will be standing outside the mansion as soon as I can at night to stare at this. Now, what's kind of unique is this is showing, no, yours is flipped, so it should be right. Shouldn't it be
Yeah.
like
I'll
because all this sequencing, that's not over on the Punzi side, that's more on the water side, correct?
Yeah, I believe it starts on the water and then it moves. It
Because
moves around.
then your best bet to be able to see this is to go on the Liberty Bell at 7 o'clock, which is the latest run that they do when it's nighttime to be able to. Did you ever ride a boat just to see some lights on a haunted mansion? I know I'm going to be.
Well, the thing is that not all of them work all the time. So sometimes you'll only
Hmm.
see like maybe 3 or 4 of them working because they just don't upkeep them. And the interesting part is behind them is a black curtain. And if the curtain were to fall, you would see lit up, you would see the mechanism for the stretching room moving up and down. You'd see the plank wood because that's what's behind the curtain of it. So it's just, oh, I think it's fascinating. So
It is so amazing, and I cannot wait to get my hands on down this realm. Deep exploration inside Disney's Haunted Mansion.
yeah.
And
And
thank you, Jackie, for sending me the link. I saw it come up, and I was like, "Ooh, that must be an Amazon link."
yes, it's a great book, and it's I think it's relatively new. I feel like it came out within the past year, so check it out. It's a really wonderful resource, especially because it focuses mostly on the Florida one. So if you go to Disney World a lot, that's a great one for you.
I do. I actually, Kate, if you didn't know, I go to Disney World a decent amount.
I'll be there in July. I can't
Yeah.
wait. July 10th, I'll be there. Hang out.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Okay.
really hot.
Yeah. You guys who are having troubles with the lives, this is the fun of thank you, Michael. This is the fun of doing lives on TikTok. TikTok is really woggly, which kind of fits us talking about the Haunted Mansion. Part one is done. On to part two next week. Will we make it inside the Haunted Mansion or not?
I,
Tune in next week, kids. We probably won't.
well,
Foreshadowing.
so we have a special guest for a little bit of next week. So if I can talk about that for a quick second.
Yeah, I think you need to tease that because I think that's amazing.
um, so my husband Elliot, who some of you met on one of my lives before, he is a musician, but he music, and he is brilliant at all things music, and he has a lot of thoughts about the haunted mansion music. He's going to do a little demonstration. He's going to talk about the difference between diegetic and non-diegetic music, and we can have a little discussion about what we think it is in the haunted mansion. It's a big college words, right? So he's a great teacher too, so he'll explain that so it makes sense for everybody. So he's going to join us for just a little bit of our next one. He'll demonstrate a few things on the piano of what they did with the haunted mansion music to make it sound the way that it does. So tune in next week for a little bit of that, and I guess we'll just keep working our way closer to the mansion as well. As well.
Hang on. Somehow, some. Okay, looks like everybody missed everything you just said. So get ready to
No.
say fancy words part two. Kate froze. Hang on, is Kate okay now? Because I heard
Okay.
all of it and it was lovely.
Okay. So next week.
Is he a musician? Hang on, hang on, hang on. Time out, time out, time out. Give us, please do us a favor. She's good now. She didn't freeze for me. Weird. She's good now. All right. We're good. Fire away.
We're good. Okay. So next week, my husband Elliot, who is a musician, he's a musicologist, and he's a professor of music. So he teaches film music, and he always tells me all about the music in the Disney parks. So he knows a lot about the Haunted Mansion music and all of the intricacies in it. Also, the difference between diegetic and non-diegetic music, which is the big college fancy words, but he'll break it down so it's easy to understand, and we can have a discussion about what we think it is in the Haunted Mansion. So we'll do a little bit of a little music special, if you will, on our next one with Elliot, who is lovely, agreed to help us out. So really excited for that.
I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any better on Distory, part three of or episode three, I should say, we're gonna have a musical guest. I mean, how incredible is that? Like
Yeah, I
we
think
keep upping. What are we gonna do next? I mean, it's just keeps on getting better.
our grand finale of this should be like trying to ride the ride at the same time. Honestly, like
So we talked about that is going on trying to time going on the attractions at the same time, which is challenging, but even if you know what we could do, because you probably already have it, is possible for us to play back us going on the rides, maybe even, or doing
yeah,
like a side by side somehow. I don't know. But
yeah.
yeah,
I
that would be
think we
it'd be super fun if you were in because it's tougher for you to get to Disneyland. It's not tough for me. So
I will be
yeah,
there in May. I'll be there in a couple weeks. 17 days.
we'll
So
17 days. There's no way we'll finish the Haunted Mansion by then.
I know.
We'll
It's
be like,
like 2
okay, we're
weeks.
gonna have to take a pause, kids, because we're gonna watch this ahead of time. But
Jack's so music, so yay.
I agree. Yeah, everybody seems to be very excited about musical guests, and of course, Jackie is total into the musical scene and vibe, based on her background and what she did for quite a few years.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. I feel like we have to wrap up.
Yeah.
You know, I
Otherwise
don't
we're
want
gonna go
to.
down another rabbit hole and we'll
We will go down a rabbit hole. Yes.
Mhm.
So. Okay. Once again, thank you so much for spending an hour with us here on a Friday. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, home of WDW theme park clothing. And of course, with me as always is my second star on the right, Miss Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how can people find you and listen to you and all things wonderful?
I'm here on TikTok at Disney Cicerone. You can also follow me on Instagram and YouTube. I'm on there too. So I also have DisneyCicerone.com. I do have a couple shirts to sell, but I also just have a blog of a lot of Disney history and things that you can explore there. So if you like
Love it.
obscure
I love
Disney
it.
history, really want crazy obscure facts, that's what I do. So
We love all those things.
yes.
So all right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. Super, super appreciate it. Are you going to play something? Please, please play whatever
Like I'm
that thing does.
like close. This one's like
Be sure to bring your death certificate.
Tell me that's not a great way to end the show.
so perfect.
Oh my gosh. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you so much, Kate, for the time. Super appreciate it. And we will see you guys on Monday. And then, of course, next week, Magic Kingdom time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time or 5:30 West Coast time, correct?
5:30 Pacific. Yep.
Depending on where you're at. So, coast to coast, we are your hosts.
Ghost hosts.
We'll catch you guys later. Go.
Bye, everyone.
Is this blog actually stretching? All right, see you guys.
Bye.
I don't know how to end this anyway. I'm terrible at these things.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
I still didn't close it out.